And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
If you cannot speak and talk about the history of who they are, then they will not really carry your story. They will not understand their story. So today, the first thing I was the greatest revelation I was telling you a while back, is that most people trying to reach, and I'm going to specifically talk today, and next week will be Spanish, the following week the Asian, etc. But I'm going to talk specifically today about the black culture. And I wanted to right now, I know, and how many would agree that I am not black? Can I get a witness, everybody? Amen. Praise God. Praise God. Pretty white to me. Can I get an amen up in here? Yeah. Praise God. Amen. So here's the deal. But what I want to share with you is I want to talk to you about is that, you know, we went across the country and we found out there's certain things that help reach that culture and reach it effectively. And there's certain things that don't make it happen. Okay. And today I would like to talk about those things that do reach the culture, specifically the men of the culture. And the first thing I found out is this. I found out that they do not know their history. That's one of the things that I know. And so you have to tell them their history. So today I'm going to attempt to do that. He's now positioned in a position of power and authority. He is given within him a belt. On one side is justice, and the other is blessing. He now is given the Constitution of God as a king. I give this to you, Bishop, as a sign of covenant, as a sign of release, as my sign of love for you. Amen. My brothers will come forth. 4 sons representing the 4 corners of the earth. They'll raise him up right now. He now is raised up from a commoner to a kingship. Come on, raise it up. And I'll walk him around. Come on! Come on, praise God.
I want to say peace and blessings to everyone. I want to say Shalom Lak, Mash Paka. If you guys can hear me, type 1 inside your comment in the comment section, so that way I can know if you're getting good audio here, because I can't really hear anything on my end. So if you could just type in one, if you can hear me, there you go. All right. So I'm not sure what's happening with my earphones here, but I want to start off by saying peace and blessings to everyone. Appreciate everyone for taking the time out of your schedule to watch this presentation, and just tune in to We Woke Now tonight. And going to do a couple of things, going to show a couple of clips. I know you guys see the title of this lesson for tonight, and wanted to talk to you guys about a couple of things. And really even in the regards of the Little Nas thing. And before we get into all of that, let me go ahead and just start by giving some shout outs to everyone. I want to say really greatly appreciative to all of you guys. I know that I haven't really been doing my normal playbooks, and I'm really trying to get back on track with that. Just a lot of things have been going on. But before we get started, let me just give some shout outs, and others that are joining. That'd be fine. That'd be great. And I'm going to drop this invite. I see Sister Carol in the chat, so I'm gonna drop this link in there. I see my buddy Jay Highstyle, and you're more than welcome to jump in and on the panel. But let me give some shout outs, and then I'll let you know what we're going to do tonight. Not going to go too long, because I know there's a lot of things going on and some things that I have to do offline. But let's start with giving some shout outs. I want to say peace and blessings to Tyrone Smith. I want to say Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Salama, covering all, right? So I want to say peace and blessings to you. Appreciate you for taking the time out to tune into this presentation tonight. I want to say bonjour to Av Yah. I want to say peace and blessings to you. Calvin, I want to say shalom to you. Of course, my sister Carol, been here, and want to say peace and blessings to you. Daughter of the Spirit of Dots, DOTS, the acronym for Daughter of the Spirit. I want to say shalom to you. Who else do we have here? Naja Strutt, want to say peace and blessings to you as well. I want to say shalom to you. Angie Love Yah, I want to say peace and blessings to you, my sister. Appreciate you. Who else do we have here? B1 Queensland, I want to say peace and blessings to you. Who else do we have here? Appreciate you for all the support. Really appreciate all you guys. Del J, want to say Shabbat Shalom to you as well, my brother. Who else do we have here? Let's see. Wendy Baker, want to say Shalom to you. Appreciate you. Sister Lynn, want to say Shalom to you. Yaz Aseli, excuse me if I Asasili, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Yaz Asasili. Excuse me if I mispronounce your name. Please don't charge it to my heart. Charge it to my head. That's the old school. That's what my grandmother would say. Let's see here. Inspired Identity, want to say shalom to you. Joy, peace and blessings to you. Joy, want to say shalom to you. My brother Ernest Higgs, want to say shalom to you. Friend of Yah, want to say shalom to you. Peace and blessings to you. Who else do we have here? Shirley Greer, want to say peace and blessings to you. Regina Palmer Williams, want to say shalom to you. And let's see who else we have here. Let's see here. And want to say peace and blessings, Shabbat Shalom to you, Garth Yahuda Andrews. I hope and pray everyone had a great Shabbat. We had a great time today, and we'll talk about that a little bit. I want to say peace and blessings to Yah's son. I want to say shalom to you as well. Who else do we have here? Of course, my buddy Jay Highstyle. Jay Highstyle. That's my buddy right here. Appreciate the words of encouragement. And I think we covered just about everyone. And if I didn't catch your name, please don't charge it to my heart, charge it to my head. Matter of fact, let me see if I could get a couple of additional names in here. I see Alberta Henderson, want to say shalom to you. Brandon Brunson, want to say peace and blessings to my buddy right there. Want to say peace and blessings to you, Minister. Appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Let's see here. Who else do we have here? Hi, Gills Taylor. Want to say peace and blessings to you. And let's see here. I think I covered just about everyone I can, and we'll do some outros, so to speak, some outro shout outs. But I'm gonna go ahead and bring on my sister, that Sister Carol here. She's been on in the back waiting here. How you doing, sis?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. My microphone is acting kind of crazy, so yeah, but I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Let me adjust this here. All right. All right. For those that are tuning in tonight, I know I was going to talk about little Nas or whatever, and I just had to really think about it, family. And to me, and I hope you guys grab hold of it, but that's what's happening with Little Nas is nothing more than marketing and attention grabbing. And don't get me wrong, we'll deal with the perversions, but I don't want to make that the focal of the topic today because we have more pressing things that's more weightier than the Little Nas. And initially, I was going to do something on him, but it was like, I really thought about it. It's like, what's more weightier? What we're dealing right now with the things that the Pope of this country that many voted in by the name of President Biden, right? That's the Pope, right? And to deal with that situation versus dealing with Little Nas, and again, he's getting ready to release his album, and so he's doing all the publicity stunts that someone like him would do. Dennis Rodman, I remember when he gave his testimony about his extreme shift from the Dennis Rodman that we knew when he was with the Bad Boys to the Dennis Rodman once he left the Bad Boys. Well, what he shared was when he was dating Madonna put him on to how to market himself and, do something extreme to draw attention. So that way he'll always, people will always support him and to help him with endorsements and all those different things. And that's what's happening with this Little Nas thing. Don't get me wrong. Yes, he's into whatever lifestyle he's into. And we know that that goes against the Most High. But I really don't want to dedicate space here right now to deal with him, deal with his whole situation to bring more advertisement to him. So we're going to deal with perversions, not tonight, but I really want to kind of do a follow-up discussion of what we talked about a couple of nights ago with Sister Carol and Dr. Roland. I really want to continue on with that discussion because to me, that's more impressive. I mean, not impressive, more pressing, put it that way, matters that we should be dealing with versus trying to deal with someone that's trying to draw attention to himself. None of you guys going to buy his album, which I hope you don't. You know what I mean? So why are we even giving them space? Why are we giving these guys like that space when again, we have far more pressing matters. And that's right, Angela Caraway, Dennis Rodman, that's when he came out with the dress and he getting married to his coach and, not him. No, he came out with the dress, but I think it was Ricky Williams did the same page when he got traded to Chicago and he put on a dress to say he's marrying, that's supposed to be symbolic to his relationship with the new coach and all this other crazy stuff. Things that many continue to do to sell their souls for the sake of attention. And last point I want to make, again, 2 Live Crew. Some of you guys, maybe before some of you guys' time, but you guys remember 2 Live Crew. 2
Yep.
Live Crew. I'm from Jersey. We didn't even never even heard of a 2 Live Crew until they, the media made a big deal about them. It's like, who are these guys? And they talking about the provocative things, the music that they do. And I never heard of them until the media were talking about them. So guess what I did? I was like, all right, let me see who these guys, who are they? And I purchased that album. And that was one of the worst investments that I made because that's just, where I'm from in Jersey, especially at that time, that music didn't fly up in that area that I'm from, the New York, New Jersey, the Philly area. So, but it was because of the advertisement. It took a group that normally would sell their music locally, but because of the media, it allowed them to get what many would consider negative publicity, and it caused them to go triple platinum. You know what I mean? They sold more because of the controversy versus the quality of their album. So that's why right now we don't need to give him any additional views or likes that's going to help put money in his pocket. All right, Sister Carol, anything you want to share tonight? Because I'm gonna show some clips, but I definitely want to kind of touch on and do a follow up on what we talked about this past Thursday. Sister Carol, you got the floor.
Oh, thank you. I was on after the Shabbat service today. I had opportunity to get on a webinar with a local physician here who's a friend of mine. He's a cardiologist. His name is Dr. Baxter Montgomery, and I'm going to do my best to try to get him to come on We Woke Now channel to talk to all of us. But he did an in-depth discussion today, a presentation today, things he couldn't say on he has his own YouTube channel as well, but due to the shadow banning, and you already know, Mr. Shadow Banning King, YouTubers love you. He did a webinar, so it'll be closed circuit to those who registered to come onto it so he can talk freely. And he gave some in-depth information about the vaccine. He's totally against it. He himself and his staff have been taking ivermectin prophylactically. It works. He treats his patients with it who has come down with COVID. And he even treats his patients prophylactically who are at high risk in the category of being high risk. He gives it to them. He gives them a 7-day course to ward off the virus from their antibodies to the antibodies are back strong. He gives them that until they build them back up. He went through steps on how to take care of yourself. Of course, changing your diet. He's a plant-based diet believing doctor. In fact, he has a whole background on how he changed how he treats his patients from medications through food. He's been all over the news years ago when he decided to do this and open up his practice. And but he believes in changing your diet, of course, losing at least 10 pounds. Start off back. Try to get that down. If you do more, perfect, but at least 10 pounds if you're overweight. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't want you to give out all the information right now. We're going to get into that because I know you got a lot of information to share. Because even today at the Shabbat, I think you heard some of the people that we had in the assembly today. Have some new people that joined the assembly today, and it's a whole family that the father is a retired nurse.
Nurse, right?
Daughter is a nurse.
Yeah.
Another daughter deals with similar to some of the things you pointed out with the medical coding and all. They gave some great information. I definitely want to touch on that too as we have a discussion tonight. But I want to start off by playing some clips. And for those, again, that is joining us tonight, we're not going to deal with Little Nas because, again, for me, that's just, putting more money into his pocket. And for those that haven't even heard of him or seen his stuff, I don't want to provoke you to go look at the video, giving him views that's further giving him free pub and money into his pocket. So sometimes we can indirectly support the deception by just even watching what they do. So I don't want to waste any time dealing with that foolishness, that things that he's doing. But again, we have more pressing matters that we're going to deal with tonight. And we're going to just kind of use this as a piggyback off of Thursday. And we will have Dr. Rawlings on in another month. And we want to make sure we solidify the date, as he pointed out, for the rest of the year. He wants to come on once a month. And we're going to talk about that as well. So I know you're about to get into your geek mode, Sister Carol, because, people don't know that you are a geek too. So, so you was about to get in your flow. So I didn't want to get you going into your flow just yet. But I want to start off by showing some clips here for everyone to take a look at, and kind of still regurgitating or reiterating some of the things that we already shared with some of the videos I dropped over the past couple of days, just to try to set up the discussion. But I still want to play those again. And Sister Carol, once we finish playing the clips, you take the floor, you lead the way. All right.
Okay.
All right.
While the vaccines provide strong protection for the vaccinated, we read about and hear about and we see the stories of hospitalized people on their deathbeds among the unvaccinated over the past few weeks.
We are learning more about a woman in the North Bay who was fully vaccinated, got COVID, and then died.
Her friends say she was a talented painter, singer, and businesswoman. They also believe that she and other vaccinated people got infected during a performance at a Sausalito bar.
One person has contracted COVID and died after being fully vaccinated. Now, before you get overly concerned, Judge Clay Jenkins says this person was an organ transplant recipient. But he reminds us that anyone who is immunocompromised is still vulnerable to the virus even after getting vaccinated.
In Barnstable, Massachusetts, the CDC tracked an outbreak of 469 cases of COVID. 74% occurred in fully vaccinated, and 4 out of 5 of those hospitalized were vaccinated.
This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. 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 And it's caused by the fact that despite America having unprecedented and successful vaccination program, despite the fact that for almost 5 months, free vaccines have been available in 80,000 different locations, we still have nearly 80 million Americans who have failed to get the shot.
As a PhD who knows the science, I'm in the category of the most vaccine hesitant group. Yes, PhDs are the most vaccine hesitant, followed by people who have less than a high school degree because they know what they don't know and they don't trust their government. And many people, the other group that is very vaccine hesitant, are African Americans.
And to make matters worse, there are elected officials actively working to undermine the fight against COVID-19. Instead of encouraging people to get vaccinated and mask up, they're ordering mobile morgues for the unvaccinated dying from COVID in their communities. This is totally unacceptable.
As a PhD who knows the science, I'm in the category of the most vaccine hesitant group. Yes, PhDs are the most vaccine hesitant.
Third, if you wonder how all this adds up, here's the math. The vast majority of Americans are doing the right thing. Nearly 3/4 of the eligible have gotten at least one shot, but 1/4 has not gotten any.
The other group that is very vaccine hesitant are African Americans. 70% of African Americans have not taken this vaccine. Why? Because they don't trust their government. Do they have reason not to trust their government? Well, between the years of 1930 and 1970, the CDC conducted the Tuskegee experiment, where they took untreated males with syphilis and they refused to treat them. Even after antibiotics became available, they still did not treat them, and they did not tell them that they had syphilis. They told those people that they were there to secure their health, and they did not secure their health. They abused them. Followed by people who have less than a high school degree because they know what they don't know and they don't trust their government. And many people, the other group that is very vaccine hesitant, are African Americans. 70% of African Americans have not taken this vaccine. Why? Because they don't trust their government. Do they have reason not to trust their government? Well, between the years of 1930 and 1970, the CDC conducted the Tuskegee experiment, where they took untreated males with syphilis and they refused to treat them. Even after antibiotics became available, they still did not treat them, and they did not tell them that they had syphilis. They told those people that they were there to secure their health, and they did not secure their health. They abused them. The other group that is very vaccine hesitant are African Americans. 70% of African Americans have not taken this vaccine. Why? Because they don't trust their government. Do they have reason not to trust their government? Well, between the years of 1930 and 1970, the CDC conducted the Tuskegee experiment, where they took untreated males with syphilis and they refused to treat them. Even after antibiotics became available, they still did not treat them, and they did not tell them that they had syphilis. They told those people that they were there to secure their health, and they did not secure their health. They abused them.
That's nearly 80 million Americans not vaccinated. And a country as large as ours, that's 25% minority. That 25% can cause a lot of damage, and they are. The unvaccinated overcrowd our hospitals, or overrunning emergency rooms and intensive care units, leaving no room for someone with a heart attack or pancreatitis or cancer. And fourth, I want to emphasize that the vaccines provide very strong protection from severe illness from COVID-19. I know there's a lot of confusion and misinformation, but the world's leading scientists confirm that if you are fully vaccinated, your risk of severe illness from COVID-19 is very low. In fact, based on available data from the summer, only 1 out of every 160,000 fully vaccinated Americans was hospitalized for COVID per day. These are the facts. So here's where we stand. The path ahead, even with the Delta variant, is not nearly as bad as last winter. But what makes it incredibly more frustrating is that we have the tools to combat COVID-19, and a distinct minority of Americans,
followed by people who have less than a high school degree, because they know what they don't know and they don't trust their government. And many people, the other group that is very vaccine hesitant are African Americans. 70% of African Americans have not taken this vaccine.
supported by a distinct minority of elected officials.
As a PhD who knows the science, I'm in the category of the most vaccine hesitant group. Yes, PhDs are the most vaccine hesitant.
Are keeping us from turning the corner. These pandemic politics, as I refer to, are making people sick, causing unvaccinated people to die. We cannot allow these actions to stand in the way of protecting the large majority of Americans who have done their part and want to get back to life as normal. And fourth, I want to emphasize that the vaccines provide very strong protection from severe illness from COVID-19. I know there's a lot of confusion and misinformation, but the world's leading scientists confirm that if you are fully vaccinated, your risk of severe illness from COVID-19 is very low.
So from the second week of September, people may not be allowed to worship in churches and mosques without showing proof of their vaccination cards at the gates. Similarly, people will not be allowed to event centers or parties or receptions without showing proof of their vaccination cards at the gates of these occasions. We have made adequate arrangements with security to prevent anybody who does not have a vaccination card from accessing any of these events. Also, you will not be allowed to access banking services in Edo State from the middle of September if you have not been vaccinated.
Sister Carol, we got Sister Carol in the building, and family again. I want to just kind of play those clips and we can just kind of talk and discuss that. And one of the things I want to point out too, because family, I know that we have to be very how can I put it, on our P's and Q's. I'm very cautious about who's giving us information, who's spewing information, and so forth. But when we bring people from within our community, like Dr. Rawlings, to come on, Rowling, excuse me, to come on and share his expertise on the subject matter, which he's a subject matter expert on this, Sister Carol as well. Let's be respectful. Are you going to agree with everything that everyone says? Absolutely not. But at the same time, let's be more understanding and let's listen. Because some of the things that I saw inside the comment section, from asking the question of why is he bragging about his 5 or 6 degrees that he has, and for me, is necessary, especially if you guys, some of you guys that are not in the far as in the high end, the upper management, so to speak, in a professional level. You'll understand that, and I don't like to use the term black, but just for the sake of the conversation, I'm gonna use it. But for the sake of being black people or melanated people, dark melanated people, descendant of slaves in this country, right? The interview does not stop once you get the job. We're interviewed while we're on the job until we leave that job. And so if he did not give his credentials, I know for sure many that was watching would ask the question, well, does he have the credentials to state what he stated? No, he does. He's well qualified, and he gave great information. I saw someone suggest that he was very hesitant of giving answers. No, he was clear with every answer to every question that was asked. So let's really be respectful. And guess what? I don't have a problem with him bragging about his credentials. Because again, had he not mentioned his credentials, I know that's would have been something that many would have taken to run with it. So again, let's be respectful. Let's not go the route of everything is an agenda in terms of trying to fleece our people. But I can understand why some will use caution with that, because of how we do have those from within, came from within our community that have fleeced the people. But let's be respectful, because he took the time out of his schedule. He didn't charge us anything to come onto this platform and give you this information and then to volunteer to come back. So I just thought I'd put that disclaimer out there and just, again, listen with intelligence. But again, let's make sure that we're being respectful, and let's not just toss him and others we bring on this platform to give us information on things that many of you guys have been asking about. And this is what he does. He's very passionate about what he does, and I appreciate him. Sister Carol, did you want to jump in and say anything?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Going through school that many years, fellowship, residency, and then taking board specialty exams in 2 year specialties you want to be in, it needs to be recognized. It needs to be recognized in our community, and we need to stop tearing our people down as being experts in their fields. It's like if it's a different color, we'll tend to go that direction and believe that's the truth. But however, if we present it, we have to find something wrong with it, and we need to get out of that mindset of thinking that way and start to uplift and listen to our people. And that's the only reason why I brought him onto this channel, because he looks like us. And what's better place to get information correctly is from our own community, because the other community wants to tell us some other information, and nobody ever goes and vets it. But he's coming to this channel vetted to tell us what's going on, to help us understand better on how to deal with this virus that we have among us. So that's what I wanted to say on that part. But to your videos that you just played, if you recall, this time last year, the cases we had were low, almost to nil, in the hospitals. You had very little admissions in the hospital. You had very little cases being reported. We were going into a flat process in the chart. The decline started happening because, first of all, people were taking vitamins. We had a large amount of vitamins being taken by all of us. Vitamin D was running off the shelf. They couldn't keep enough up on the shelf for people to buy. They had a lot of back stock on it. If you go to stores, wherever you bought your vitamin D from, you couldn't get it. But we were heavy loaded in vitamin D, amongst other vitamins we were being taken. People were outside, people were doing things and getting their bodies back in health. The virus then started to do what normal viruses do. It built a resistance. So in other words, it was nothing else to attack. So the virus will then plateau. And the body then builds antibodies against it. So we created a natural immunity against that particular strand of, if you want to call the alpha coronavirus. We were low. So what happened between, and mind you now, no vaccine was out. They were talking about the vaccine, but no one was getting inoculated with the vaccine until December. So this time last year, we had no vaccine. We had no vaccine even in the beginning. And the cases we had back then compared to now, it's like apples and oranges. Way more cases now than we had back then. No vaccine in sight, no vaccine nowhere. Vaccine didn't start until December. And we still was flat even when the vaccine was started to be inoculated in people. By the time we got to March, April is when you start seeing a spinoff of a new mutation of a variant starting. From April to June is when it started ticking all the way up until it got to the point where explosion, where we are to now. What happened between this time last year, December, and March? And nobody's paying attention to that. But based upon what the president is pushing out into the media, and totally different what he said last year too. If you remember him in his conversation, he was all against mandating vaccines. He was against mandating masks. He was against all that stuff. All of a sudden now he's flipped the script and he wants everybody to get vaccinated. And now it's all about the unvaccinated. He's not looking at anyone who's vaccinated. He's not talking about that. In fact, that whole narrative of discussion of anything happening with the vaccinated is not even part of the media's discussion. Its only focus is on the unvaccinated. And by any chance, if a vaccinated situation happens in the news, it has a caveat to it. Oh, they died from underlying condition. Well, he survived or she survived. We knew this would possibly happen with the breakthrough, but it's still good to have it because it'll help your body in protection. But they never discussed the adverse reactions with this vaccine. They never discussed the deaths with this vaccine. They never put that out. You have to go find that information. You have to go dig into the data, into the news of other cities and other states to find their reporting of what's going on in their individual states. Like Massachusetts, we'll just use it for example. Massachusetts is no different than Israel, the state of Israel. They had over almost close to 80% of vaccinated people who became sick. And I think over, last I counted, was up to like 200 and some odd deaths of vaccinated people that they're reporting. That is unheard of. But no one wants to spotlight that. And no one's paying and asking any questions of why they're not discussing what's happening with this vaccine and only pushing the vaccine upon the unvaccinated, trying to make the unvaccinated be the ones of the target. And that's what we need to concentrate on, is that part, and trying to get that off of us in the best way possible, form a match. And then on top of that, the vaccinated and the unvaccinated is no different. They both can get sick, you both can get hospitalized, and you both can die. So it doesn't work. Like Dr. Rowland said last Thursday night, you have to have a vaccine for every single variant, which is why they have a third one out now. And it's going to be a fourth one because it's going to be another. We already have another variant out now called Mu, and there's going to be others that's out when they decide to announce them into the public, and they will have to address it because neither one of these vaccinations, if you want to call them that, will be effective. They only last for 90 days.
And Sister Carol, and to your point, and even when we just talk, just the things that when we just start doing the timeline on this, I was trying to find one of my presentations that I did that had the stats in it. I'm trying to go back to it because I know that we were dealing, a lot of with some of the playbooks we dealt with some timelines on the contradictions that they were putting out there in terms of the stats and so forth. But one thing that was interesting that one of the nurses in today's service pointed out, she pointed out that when you're dealing with the systematic, and it was a good point because I never thought about it until she brought it up, when she stated that, they never, anyone that knows medicine never heard of an asymptomatic virus.
Correct.
That if you're going to have, like she said, like diabetes is a symptom. You can have it, but you may not have symptoms that you have diabetes for it can be decades. But when you're dealing with a virus, you're going to know right off the back. It's not something that's going to, you're going to have symptoms like whatever it may be, just like a cold. Do you want to elaborate on that more?
Well, let's use high blood pressure. High blood pressure, you have no symptoms of high blood pressure outside of your pressure being high. So you don't have a feeling of a sickness unless you're just totally, off the charts with the high blood pressure and you have headaches and dizziness. But other than that, you can walk around. People walk around with high blood pressure all the time and with no effects until they go to a doctor or they take their blood pressure and find out that it's out of range, that it's not within the normal range it should be. But yes, a virus, a bacterial virus, you're going to know immediately something's wrong with you because you're going to be sick. You're going to feel symptoms of a virus. You're going to have a fever, or you're going to have a headache, or you're going to become fatigued, or you're going to, or the abdominals or vomiting. So it's going to be something that's going to cause you to have symptoms that you're going to notice. There's no such thing as asymptom and asymptomatic. You are or you're not. You either transmit it or you don't transmit it. There's no such thing as that there's an asymptomatic virus. You either are or you're not. And that narrative needs to be stopped too. But like you said earlier about tweeting the marketing, like with Little Nas, they're doing the same thing with this virus. It's a marketing tool to push onto the media to get everyone to accept we must take this vaccine and we must get the unvaccinated vaccinated. That is the marketing playbook that they're playing out into the media over and over and over and over. No matter where you look, if it's on social media or if it's on I call it the idiot box of TV, that is what they push out. Commercials, whatever. That is the marketing tool that they want to put out into the mindset of everyone that you must have this, and then basically close you down when you have no choice but to get it. But you do have a choice not to get it if your job is at risk, which is what's happening with a lot of people right now.
And Sister Karen, I want to say peace and blessings. We got Jay Highstyle. We got the doctor in the house. Really appreciate him for jumping on. I know I put him on the spot by me dropping the link in the chat. But I just thought that this is a needed discussion to have, a follow-up discussion on what the doctor presented to us on Thursday. And again, it's just when you go back and you really start, and we create a timeline of how the information was spewed or put out there. We can start even just a year ago. A year ago today, Joe Biden was speaking against. He stressed his hesitation of taking the vaccine. If it's as far as a test vaccine and all those different things out there. What's the name of Kamala Harris, and they all were echoing the same thing because he got asked the question: if they came out with a virus right now, would you take it? Vaccine right now, would you take it? And he hesitated. And so, but yeah, I think this is a great discussion to have, and even we can kind of pick apart a little bit of even the message that his speech that he gave on Thursday, or was it Thursday or Friday? I mean, Wednesday or Thursday. Well, one of those days.
Yeah.
Because he is a lot of things that he pointed out that we really have to listen to. Like for me, one of the things that stood out was him using the term minority.
Yes.
25% minority. Those are two buzzwords that when we understand, our community is hesitant about taking it. And the other thing that he pointed out, as far as like stating that we're being led away by poor information and that type of thing, just some of the things that when you really listen to him, it caters to the stereotypes that's out there about our community. Uneducated, being led astray, fearful, and all these other, some of the other different things that come with the territory. But Jay, go ahead, Jay, jump on in, whatever you want to share with the people. And, I really appreciate you for jumping on.
Peace and blessings, fam. Yeah, Pastor, let me tell you, I think there's a much bigger agenda than what we can actually see, especially dealing with the point of asymptomatic symptoms. I believe that that's just their way of coining and bringing even more to the forefront the whole CV, I'm gonna call it CV epidemic. And with that being said, again, there's a much bigger agenda than what we can actually see, and it's rearing its ugly head right now. When you think about it, when this first came out, let's see, we were experiencing different symptoms from the COVID, and there I go, CV, and through these different symptoms, they pretty much were saying that this is what it is. And then there were other people, like Sister Carol brought out, who may have been experiencing things like high blood pressure or heart disease or what have you. And they were being added to the mix as if they were actually part of the whole CV symptom scheme of things. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sister Carol, but they were pretty much doing that in the hospitals. And from what I'm hearing, or what I have heard, the more CV cases they had, the more their revenue would increase. So that's one part of the agenda, I feel, but even beyond that point, we see that there is a much greater agenda. Why push the lollipop on people who are in disagreement with this, and at the same time say that we're the cause of it spreading? But at the same time, the people that are getting these lollipops, these jabs, they shouldn't really have to worry. Am I right? If if they're having these jabs taken, then they should be the last people worried about it spreading and them getting infected and so on and so forth.
Correct.
So we start to see even a bigger scheme now, where they started saying that even if you have received the jab, you can still possibly get infected. And I believe that this is really not because of the general pandemic, but because of first of all, I don't feel that jab is working at all. It doesn't work. Even a doctor told us that the other day, that it does not work, especially when you have other variant strains out there that the jab does not recognize. And there's a whole bunch of issues behind that as well. And, Pastor, I've expressed myself to you as far as that goes as well. You still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. And so, so the bottom line is, even when we look at even before the pandemic, we saw where um, uh, CV has always been around. It was never to the point where we were in dire straits because it just all of a sudden popped up on the scene. It was always around. And even with that being said, we've always had an immune to such a virus. But all of a sudden now, out of nowhere, we see where this CV-19 has reared its ugly head, and oh wow, none of us are safe from it, and we all need to get the jab. So all of these things, and excuse me if I'm rambling, but all of these things really sets up a red flag in our minds as to what are they really doing and what is their actual agenda. And from what I can see, they have a big agenda, and we only see it in part. We only see it in part. No one clearly knows what their agenda is. But we got to stay prayerful, and we got to continue to rely on the Most High and have faith in Him, and Him seeing us out of this situation. Because we got some people that are wicked people in some high places that are in control right now, and they're looking to do us harm more than anything.
Sister Carol, did you want to say anything, Sister Carol?
I was going to say I fully agree with you, Jay. Saddest part thing of it is, if this was flipped, let's just say we flipped the script on this and say that the vaccinated people will be fired. The vaccinated people cannot travel. The vaccinated people must stay quarantined at home, because we don't know what this vaccine is going to do to us who are unvaccinated. Would they be the people now who's all galvanized around the president to push the agenda of everybody to get this inoculation? Would they be as forceful as they're being now and hateful as they are now? Because right now it's like a big rave of hate coming toward anyone who's unvaccinated, which is what they want, because they want to keep pressure on us to go and get it. Would they feel the same way? I saw someone today, a posting on Facebook and she was a sister. She stated in a comment, it was a news article about Howard Stern stating he had COVID, and that now he had it. His whole entire come after those people who are not vaccinated. So people on there was cheering him on. I'm not a fan of his, but I agree with him 100%. So this sister said in her comment, yes, those people who are vaccinated, they need to be carted off to a camp and kept there, not let out into the public whatsoever.
Oh, sorry, sister. Go ahead. I thought you finished. Go ahead, Sister Carol.
Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about, even with what you pointed out, it makes me think about the doll test. Remember back in the the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, they did the doll test with the children, especially from our community. Like, how did they respond to a black doll?
Yes.
How do they respond to a white doll? And this is the same thing that we see playing out right now. We can see the same overtones, so to speak, how, as far as racial overtones that are being hidden and masked into this so-called, as Biden called it, a unvaccinated pandemic, just to really push that narrative even more. And what really hit me is a few people told me that they tried to share the video of what the discussion on Thursday to some of their loved ones, and the first thing the loved ones asked them before even watching the video was, "Did you take the vaccine?" Basically, they don't want to hear anything unless you took the shot.
That's it.
And a few people have said that their loved ones don't even want to watch the video. I'm talking about our people.
Yes.
Don't even want to look at the information
No.
because in their minds, those that don't have the vaccine are the enemies. Those that haven't taken the jab are the enemies.
That's it.
Go ahead, Jay. I see you. I'll give her to say something.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. A lot of our people are pretty much oblivious to what actually is taking place and the ramifications of actually taking the jab. They're oblivious to that, and I've seen it even in my own neck of the woods. And you try to be informative to them, but they'll shut you down and say, "Well, what else are we going to do?" Things of that nature. And my whole thing from the very start, when this first started coming out, was as the doctor even explained, herd immunity. Let the virus actually take its course, and from that point, we will develop immunity. And like I was saying earlier too, we actually are we do have within our bodies cells that guard against such things as TB. And this was a question I had actually presented to the doctor the other day. It's not just antibodies that are looking to fight off TB, but also T cells. And primarily, there's studies out there right now that says primarily it's the T cells that actually combat the TB and much antibodies. They've actually found a case where the antibodies were not, there was zero level of antibodies, where it's for people who did combat the CV, and they pretty much said that it was related to T cells and how they interact with infected cells. And I believe there's 3 different types. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Carroll, but there's 3 different types of T cells, and they all have their own functionality. And primarily overall what the T cells do is they actually kill off infected cells, especially that are CV related. So again, my question is, why even go through this whole other pathway of developing a jab that's really doing us more harm than good, and not just rely on our own natural immunity? That more than anything, I think would have been the proper route to take, even when they started talking about monoclonal antibodies.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, it's kind of up in the air as to if those antibodies are actually going to be able to recognize the spike protein on the virus. And if anything, the route that they should take, if anything, and this has been around for such a long time, is blood transfusions.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's white blood cell transfusions that people can actually take for a remedy. So if anything, why not do it that way, to where those white blood cells, those T cells, in other words, are actually recognizing the infected virus or the infected cell with the virus, and then from there handle it that way, instead of trying to modify our own DNA and RNA, which really, again, that does not make any sense whatsoever, because you're doing more harm than good. You're actually, put it this way, you're actually injecting your own virus into the human, into the host. And that really doesn't make any sense. It's like you're adding more fuel to the fire instead of trying to douse it out. And it just amazes me, And these people who are in charge on both sides, Trump side and also Biden side, neither one of them know what they're doing.
No.
That's the whole problem. They don't know what they're doing, and they're putting us in harm's way in the process.
UT here in UT Medical Branch here in Houston, Galveston, have developed a plasma treatment process that's being used in one of the hospitals here in Houston. And that is what was used on the governor as well as Trump. They found this time last year, as a matter of fact, is when they started using it. That the plasma, exactly what you said, that blood transfusion, your plasma with antibodies in it, injected into a person who has COVID, allows them to regenerate their T cells, and if they're low, and build antibodies inside their body so they can fight off the infection. And you're correct. T cells are your Marines inside your body. Their job is to go and find infections. Anything that's foreign coming to your body, their job is to go seek it out and kill it immediately. Your B cells also help with the T cells. What they do is they're like the army behind the Marines. They work together in helping you regenerate your cells as being used, and those cells have been affected, so they can go back and build stronger red blood cells inside your bodies, while the white blood cells are taking a beating, if you will, with the infection. But the biggest thing I want everyone to understand and do, if you can do this, get your T cells checked. Go to a lab. There's a couple labs. I know it's one doctor friend of mine told me about, who can come to your house, draw your blood, and check your T cell levels. It may be a little cost involved in that, but it's worth you knowing what your levels are. It's all about knowing your levels. When I had my well woman done a month ago, my physician was astonished how high my D level was, because of the vitamin D's I was taking. I take 5,000 unit international unit of vitamin D, and also has other vitamins in this mixture, and it's one pill as well. But it was above the range. And he was astonished about how high it was and wanted to know what was I taking. I told him what it was. But it's things that you should do to your body. Your body is a force of its own. You don't need anything to be put into the body. The body does what it's supposed to do. It's what was created. It's why the Most High created it. He created you to have every single thing that's in the ground, that's in your body. Every element that we learn in school is inside our body. That's why we came from the ground. Adam came from the ground, and everything was put into Adam is put into us. Our thing is to make sure we keep that machine going by any means necessary, by eating correctly, exercising, going outside to the sun, mixing with the earth. We get back into the earth. You remember, we was a kid, you run out in the dirt, get hurt, cut ourselves all up. We used to tell people, roll around in the dirt, you'll be all right. Get back up and play, and it heals itself in about a couple of days. You back good. And what happened? Your body built antibodies around whatever was in that dirt.
Well, Sister Carol, I'm going to interrupt you, but we couldn't play in the dirt where I'm from because it was like glass mixed up with it and everything. So, I'm from the city, in the projects. You can't, Jake can attest, you can't roll around in that dirt up there because you have some old broken glass from old English and all kinds of stuff inside that dirt.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just joking. But I to your point, though, I definitely understand where the point that you made with that. And can you explain too, because one of the things that really stood out too, and I'm gonna put the live up again, because normally what we do after our Shabbat service, we take it down. But I'm gonna put the live up for those that want to listen to it. But some of the nurses there gave some valid points. And another point that one of the nurses made was about the emergency room. The nurse pointed out that they've been over 100 hospitals around this country. They have not seen any of the numbers, not even close. For I think she said on 4 or 5 COVID patients that actually came in.
That's right.
If you could give more, give clarity on that, so that way people can understand exactly what's going on. Because for me, I'm like, and maybe I'm looking at it too. What some would say too. How can I put it? Abrupt. With my view on it, because I view it like this: if we're able to document or give you pictures or images of 911 ground zero, the Iraq War ground zero, Vietnam ground zero, even just the explosion that took place over in Afghanistan ground zero with body parts in the images. Why can't we get those same images when we're talking about the ICU being filled up with patients, from the CV patients. Why can't we get some of those images that really confirms that? Because a friend of mine, his mother is the head nurse at the hospital out here, and same thing. They say it was so empty up in there. It's totally the opposite of what's being spewed out over
Correct.
the airwaves. So
Correct.
can you give clarity on that? Because I think that's going to help people get a understanding about what's really happening and the questions that we should be asking.
Well, remember, emergency room is just that, emergency room. So anybody who's emergent goes into the emergency room, you don't know what they are, because they're coming into the hospital for some type of situation that's going on with their body, or some type of emergency situation. If it was due to a collision, motor vehicle accident, or whatever the case may be, they're triaging whatever walk in the door. So when I'll use myself, I went to the emergency room about 2 months ago, and what they did, and it was people all over the place inside the room, spiraling inside. It was midday on a Saturday evening. They had one side for COVID patients, and they had one side for everyone else. Then they come into the emergency room. There weren't that many people going inside for COVID. The other people were going inside. The side I was going up while I was there. That is not the picture that they're showing. Now, of course, over time, now that this new variant came out, you're going to have a rush of people coming inside to the hospital. But most people are going to their clinic to see their physician. That's where most people are going, more so than going to the hospital. Only people going to the hospital who are in respiratory distress. You cannot breathe. That's when you go to the hospital. But otherwise, other than that, if you're sick, you're going to be at home, or you're going to go see your doctor's office. You're not going to go to the emergency room, because they're going to send you back, because they're going to classify you as non-emergent. Non-emergent people are not seen right away. Only if you are triaged to see that this person is emergent, we need to fast track them into the emergency room, into the hospital. But again, if you're in respiratory distress, those are the ones who they are bringing back forward into the hospital. And it's not what their vision like. Even here, in Houston, the cases were up, and now they're leveling off. I don't hear the same amount of noise in the news as saying that they are running out of beds in the ER, or doing drive-by, going to the other facility because the ER is full and they can't see any other patients without going to drive-by status. That has calmed down, but no. I think that's all propaganda as well, is to throw gasoline into the news to say, hey, you unvaccinated people, look what you're doing. You're filling up the emergency room. I had a friend of mine the other day posted his wristband from the emergency room that he was upset because all the unvaccinated people were in the room. I said, you don't know what those people are in there for. People are in the emergency room. Everybody, if they all had COVID, they wouldn't be sitting in a room with you. They would be in another part of the hospital, because they're going to separate the COVID people away from the people who do not have COVID. They automatically do that. If they ask you are experiencing certain symptoms, they take you to another part of the emergency room. You're not in the population with everyone else. So that by itself is a misnomer.
Absolutely. Jay, did you want to say anything?
Well, to add to what Sister Carol's saying, I believe that they just exhausted their statistics.
Yes.
They started off with these high numbers, and again, it wasn't just CV, but other elements that were added to the mix in order to beef up the numbers. And now, because look, think about it for a moment. If we're all at home and we're not eating out as much, how many people do you think are going to actually be suffering from things like high blood pressure and heart disease and things like that? Because let me tell you something, and y'all know some of these fast food restaurants, some of these regular restaurants even, they're very detrimental to your health, when it comes to eating there. So, I feel that they've just exhausted their numbers to the point where you don't see as many cases now. And again, it's not really about the CV. I mean, yeah, it's running its course, it's doing this thing, but they super inflated everything to the point where it you know, it does look like propaganda. Oh, well, you know, we got to do something about this now. We got, well, yeah, get that jab. We got to get that jab, you know. And now we see that, you know, it's not really what they hyped it up to be. That's my take on it.
You know, also too, in you guys, I don't know if you can see the comment on the screen, and I hope I don't butcher your name, sis. On Oni, excuse me, I'm not even gonna butcher the name. We're just gonna say, we got our sister here from Nigeria, who posted a comment here saying, here in Nigeria, we live like a can of sardines, and yet we are not getting this so-called
COVID-19.
C-19. And so, and just the clip that I played earlier, and I could play it again, of just even what was announced over there by the, I think it was what the president or you know, that made the strict restriction in regards to COVID-19, C-19 or whatever. But I want to also say this too, to everyone that's watching. We're not, and I want to make this clear, we're not saying or trying to minimize the importance of this virus. I want to make it clear. We're not trying to say it doesn't exist. We're not saying that it's not causing problems, because we do believe that it exists and it is causing problems. But what we're questioning is the method and the information that is being put out there. You know, the misinformation that's really causing a lot of confusion. You know, data is not really being shared like it should be, you know, and the people that should be sharing this information are not. And so, and also to really get you to understand that you know, we do have options. You do have options. You need to understand what questions to ask. You know, you can't go to, if you work for someone, don't just say you're not taking the vaccine,
Right.
but at least have a plan, what you're going to say. Say, hey, here's my concerns. Can you give me answers on this right here? If you say that it's mandatory to take this vaccine, are there any exceptions that's being offered? Because whatever reason. And also, how is it going to affect my medical benefits? Right? If you're saying that we have to take this vaccine, then should there be some side effects to it? What's the long-term solutions to make sure that I'm taking I'm taking care of, my family is taken care of? What's the long-term solutions? And those some of the questions you are entitled to ask, and they are supposed to give you an answer. So for those that don't have the flexibility of just coming off the grid, so to speak, be wise about how you communicate and articulate yourself. You know, because you do have some people, and I'm just going to be real with you. You have some people that may have kind of like that after the next day prophets that say, "Hey, if I were you," type prophets, and they're not in your situation. They may have more flexibility because of whatever's in their household. They may not have the flexibility that you have. I mean, they may have flexibility that some of you guys may not have, to say, you know what, I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. I'm just going to say I'm not doing it, and that's it, and I'm walking off. But some of you guys may not have that type of flexibility. This is where you have to use wisdom.
Correct. Absolutely. Dr. Montgomery said today he had a credentialed at one of the hospitals here in Houston. And what he did, because he's not vaccinated, he got a religious exemption. And he stated that that one will probably get you exemption faster than a medical one, especially if you do not have any adverse reactions to vaccinations in the past. He said your best bet is to necessarily be a pastor or that type of or presentation, but basically tell them that what your beliefs are, and that should get your exemption that you need to have, and they should not be pressuring you based upon that. And I have seen some where they're now discussing in the news that they're trying to get rid of the religious exemption for this vaccine. But I think constitutionally, they're going to have a problem with that, which now I'm seeing lawyers now coming out the woodwork now to start fighting against it. I have been waiting for some lawyers to start talking about this. So far, I've been seeing companies have lawyers in their pocket to push their labor law situation they want to push. But now I'm seeing the flip of that now, that attorneys are coming out now fighting against the constitutional rights of a person to have their rights not be taken from them in decision regarding the medical procedures being done to your body, because this is a medical procedure. Let's be clear about that. And if you go to your doctor and your doctor tells you that you need to have this procedure done because you have X, Y, Z, you're going to go see another specialist and get a second opinion before you even decide if you want to have someone cutting on you or having an injection placed upon you, or whatever the case may be. You want to get a second opinion. This should be handled no different way. These are not medical people who you work for. Even the hospital, the CEO is telling you to do that. If he's not a physician himself, a practicing physician, he does not know my medical history. No more than I know his medical history to tell you what you should and should do with your body. That is your right to garner your body, because you only have your body once. And if something happens to your body, if you do take this vaccine, who is going to be liable for it? And that's the question. Where is the liability going to lie if you have a disability from this vaccine, or even death? Because that's a real deal that needs to be discussed. And you need to make sure you have that clear when you discuss that with your HR person, because that's going to be the person that's going to present that to you after you probably talk to your boss or whoever gave you the ultimatum of time frame you have to have this done. Is the liability involved in that?
Sister Carol, I want to ask you this question. As far as the HIPAA Act, is there a clear violation there when it comes to your job? Do you actually have to divulge information such as if you've taken it or not?
No.
Through the HIPAA Act?
That is absolutely HIPAA. Even the people who have been posting their vaccination cards up and down Facebook saying, "Hey, look, I got jabbed today. I got my second blah blah," and showing the card. You are violating your own patient health information, PHI, which is why the law was created, to help you protect your information. If you are parading up and down Facebook and Instagram, say, "Hey, look at my card," no, you're supposed to garner that. Because all your now I know what type of vaccine you have. I know your lot number you have. I know your date of birth. I know who you are. All I do now is just go look you up and get some more information on you, which is the whole purpose of this. But no, they're not supposed to be able to do that.
So with that being said, shouldn't that be fighting grounds for those that are looking to stay away from their employers telling them, "Oh, you got to get the jab"?
Absolutely.
Shouldn't that be fighting grounds in itself? The fact that we do have privacy issues or concerns?
The governor of this state of Texas, him and also the governor in Florida were the first two that came out and stated that that will not be happening in this state. That no company will ask any employee or anyone to show their vaccination status. Period. We're not going to have a vaccine passport state, because that's private. Now, if I want to divulge that to you, that's one thing. But no, for you to ask me that in order for me to come inside your building, or for me to come pump my gas, or whatever the case may be, because I've even heard some craziness about pumping gas. They don't want you pumping gas with all vaccination card. I'm like, really?
And who was that? Sister Shonda was talking about she couldn't go into McDonald's or something like that. Yeah. It's just crazy.
Yeah, well,
it really is.
New York told you can't even fly there without your vaccination card. You can't do anything in New York. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't go to events. You can't go to church. You can't go to the bank. You can't do anything in New York besides fly there. And probably don't want you to fly there. If you fly there, you can't get off the plane unless you show your vaccination card as you exit the plane. But it's just ludicrous. And what's amazing to me is how no one is paying attention. Let's just forget the vaccine for a moment. It's what they're doing to everyone's rights. Is it fair for someone to lose their job behind being injected?
Right.
A job for 30 years, and you're going to tell this person, okay, by next Friday, it's mandatory that you have to have this injection. If you don't, we're going to fire you. What? Who? No one is looking at this from that part of the brain. All they're seeing is, oh, we got to get this, got to get this, got to get this. But look at the outcome that you're doing to people. People losing jobs, they no longer able to work, they can't keep their house, they can't do this, they can't do that, because now you have put me into a capsule where I can't do anything because I don't have this injection. It's Jim Crow all over again. I call it Joe Crow. And that's exactly what they've created. Because now, all of a sudden, now they have privilege. We're privileged now because the privilege is vaccination. You know, we're elitists. We're in the 1% now, and you people now are slaves, the unvaccinated. That's what it seems like it feels like. You can't drink from their water fountain because you're unvaccinated. That's your water fountains over there for the unvaccinated. And that's what's boiling down to.
And Pastor, this is so close.
Say something?
Yeah, this is so close to what I consider to be the mark of the beast. I mean, just look at the things the ramifications from not taking this CV jab. It seems like they're practicing or something. It's just amazing me. You know, we're watching prophecy unfold right before our very eyes.
And even to that point, Brother Jay, when we look at the mark of the beast, right? The scripture mentions 666, which is a mark of man. And when we understand it from the biblical perspective, we know 6 is on the 6th day is where man was created, right? Right. But when we look at 666, it's referring to a system. So the system, ultimately, the mark of the beast is not just one particular thing. Right. It's this system needing the system for validation. Right. Because we could say that the vaccines are part of it. We could say that, as far as the cards that you have to show and prove that this is who you have this, your social security card, your birth certificate, all those different things that we have to provide as a set of things to validate who we are. Even back in slavery, even though we're still in slavery, so to speak, but even back in the early parts of the transatlantic World War, our ancestors were branded with the mark of the fleur de lis, which is called the lotus flower. And our ancestors couldn't buy or sell without having a receipt from the slave owners saying that, hey, you can go and move around and go to these different areas. If you're caught without that receipt or ticket or whatever, then they can take anyone from the white community can actually lock you up and punish you. So, the system is more, the mark of the beast is more than just, I believe, just one particular item, but it's the whole totality of the different things that they put in place that to control and validate. I mean, and we have to use to validate them. And ultimately, the group of people that's being hit the hardest is our community. And I think, Sister Carol, I think you made a great point earlier while we were talking, and you brought up immigration.
Yes.
Right. How, the Spanish community, they getting immigration laws passed. Yes. When we think about what happened with the Asian community with this situation that was being stirred up, guess what? They got laws passed with the Asian community. Yes. But then we have people from our own community bragging that they're going to pass a law that none of us ever have to worry about dying from having a knee to the back of our neck. But yet we're still being killed. You know what I mean? By law enforcement. Right. It's a whole different ball game when it comes to other communities versus our community. So, yeah, I just believe that the mark of the beast, this is part of that system of validation that we can't do anything without that system. And the indoctrination starts while you're in school, the permission slip. You know what I mean? You can't use the restroom unless you have the permission slip. And like me and Sister Carol was talking earlier, that kids actually would stay there and use the bathroom on themselves. Yep. While I was that one kid that just, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. I'm going to the bathroom, and I'll just let you deal with my grandmother.
Right. Right. Go to the principal's office. Yep.
And it's one thing I want to share too, and you guys could touch on it. I'm gonna bring it up on the screen and see if you guys remember. I've been talking about this stuff from the very beginning about the patents and the ownership of these vaccines,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I want to put this back up on the screen here, just so that way the people can see for themselves and understand. There's a reason why Bill Gates stepped down from Microsoft, and went into the I would just say the farmer route. So
Mm-hmm.
what you see on your screen here, and I'm gonna go to the previous slide here. Let me bring this up here so you guys understand what you see here. This is showing who owns, and I'll put here who's the witch, that owns the coronavirus. But when we understand that what witchcraft is, that's where you get the term, the Greek word pharmacy or pharmakia comes from. So that's that term witch. Guess what? Is someone that operates in bending, twisting, the things that the Most High have put in place, the natural laws in place to manipulate, as a form of manipulation for whatever systems or medicines and agendas that they're pushing. But I wanted to show you this here. And family, I've been teaching this for years. Whenever I hear a new virus come out, I go here. This is atcc.org. Anytime you hear a virus, you can go here for yourself, and you can see the information on here. So I put the source up here so you can see that this is not me making this up. Now, notice what you see here on your screen. I'm sure you guys catch it. The patent number. There is a patent number, and notice what you see here. Coronavirus, right?
Yep. Yep.
Right. Let me highlight it. Right. Let me bring some. You guys know how I like to highlight certain areas, but notice how you see here. You see a patent number, and guess what? Notice what it says: inventors. Because I actually went into the patent online patent office, database, and I looked for the patent number, and it came up with these 3 individuals' names that are the inventors of it. So you cannot have a patent on a vaccine if it's not genetically modified.
Right.
You can't put I can't put a patent on a cold. You know what I mean? Because that's something that's going to happen regularly every year. That's going to happen. But if I genetically modify it in any kind of way, then I can put a patent on it. So therefore, whoever owns the patent on this, and those that have used their samples to create the vaccine per se, guess what? They get money off of this.
Right.
So it's a very lucrative business when you look at it from a bigger picture. Let's just say if it costs $40 a pop for each person, right?
Right.
Biden said that 70% of the people in America had taken the vaccine, right? So let's just say 170 or 180 million people. Multiply 180 million times 40. Now you're talking trillions of dollars.
Right.
That's just off of this, not even counting the cost for the booster shot. And to me, technically, we could say the second jab is a booster shot.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So they broke it down into 2 parts. But again, look at the monies that's generated from it. Mm-hmm. They guaranteed to get their money because guess what? The money is going to come from the government by way of who? The middle class is going to pay for it. So they get their money no matter what. They pay whoever they pay, the distributors and all of that. But ultimately, think about the plus side of what they make, their profits, because Bill Gates invested $10 billion and earned $250 billion. And this was keeping a record of it up until about 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
So what are you guys' thoughts on that? Start with you, Sister Carol.
Well, absolutely. And I was going to tell you, the oldest coronavirus that's ever lived, it's been living with us forever, is the cold, the common cold. Common cold is the coronavirus. And there is no cure for the common cold. There is no vaccine for the common cold. but it's the oldest coronavirus who've ever lived. So all these other coronaviruses are what then? Because the whole is a natural coronavirus. It comes that's from animals. Animals are born with coronavirus, which is why when you get a puppy or a kitten and you take it to the vet, and on their scheduled vaccines they have to get, one of them is the coronavirus vaccine they get for them. So they already had one for them. So how were they able to make a vaccine for something they knew nothing about? Because they already had patents of it created for it, that they have created for these. So yes, all viruses have a patent on them. If you go look up on the same website, you will see other viruses on there too that they patent and did research on, and did all type of thesis reports on, and put out in white paper reports and put out on the web. Same thing with SARS. When the first COVID came out with Pfizer, they did a whole white paper report on what they did in trying to create a vaccine and failed, killed all the animals. But back then, there was a patent on it. Zika, exactly. H1N1, it's another one.
And notice the name on the Zika.
Yeah.
And look at the date, 1947.
Correct. But it made you think, what was that, about 5 years ago? Zika was going to kill everybody, remember? It's been around. All these old other viruses that we've lived through, polio, smallpox, so forth, etc. They're still out there. The deal is we built immunity to those, and a lot of those were man-made with patents. They're all out there. They're in medical books, and they discuss them along with everything that goes with them. Remember the Ebola scare that came out? Was it 2013? And the nurses was over in, I forgot what, I think it was it Kenya? I can't remember where she was. And she contracted the Ebola virus. It got into her system. They flew her back here to Atlanta to CDC, and they gave her a vaccine, and she was cured. How is that possible when Ebola has no vaccine? Because there's a patent for it. But we will not go dig this information out. It's really sad that we don't, but it's out there for us to just go pull it out and see it. Same thing with the CDC website. If everybody go to cdc.gov and type in deaths by ethnicities, it will show you the breakdown by ethnicities, the hospitalizations by ethnicities, as well as the deaths by ethnicities over since the beginning of last year, March, up into present. They'll give you the statistics, and you will see the breakdown by ethnicities of who this virus has been affecting. And you can then go back to the media when they tell you these stories about, you African American community, you need to get vaccinated because you're dying in large alarming rates, which is not the truth. It is on their website. Their data is on their website. You want to know what the truth is, go to their website and dig through the data. It's there. And it refutes anything they put out into the public, because it's black. You can't refute black and white. But yeah, coronavirus has been around for decades upon decades. This is nothing new. It's just different variants of it. And they have genetically modified these viruses.
And Jay, you could jump in there too if you want. And can you talk about too, because I know the doctor, and I read the first chapter of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And Sister Carol, if you could share some information too about what he shared about medical apartheid, right?
Yeah.
And guys, I encourage you guys to get that book.
I got it.
Right? I read chapter 1. Y'all know I'm a geek, and I already read chapter 1. Actually, and the only reason why I didn't get beyond that because I had to prepare for the Shabbat this morning. But it really, how can I put it? Connect the dots. It's one area that we really refuse to really research is that how we were exploited as a people for the medical purposes, for medicine. And when the doctor made it clear, and I talked about the Tuskegee, and I talked about a few incidents, but not to the magnitude of what he pointed out about the 10,000 that's buried in Georgia from being used for basically as lab rats, basically slaves, right? That had no rights, or the women's that they cut their reproductive organs, and how the person that got the recognition off of, he got all kinds of recognition off of what? Mutilating our women. And it's other situations that we could point out. But sis, did you want to touch on that? And Jay, you can touch on it as well.
Absolutely. And mind you now, when they did these experiments, we were the animals back then for research, if you will. And all this was done at Emory University there in Atlanta. They gave them no anesthesia. So they're doing all this experimentation without anesthesia. So screams, yells, all that was going on when they were doing all this mutilation. Lake Lanier. I mean, if you've ever been to Atlanta, and I know what Lake Lanier is, there is a whole community that's under that water, under that lake, that's of our people who were slaves, who they were using a lot of these experiments. So in order to cover up all their horrifying things they did to our people, they flooded the whole area and made it to the lake. That people now, drive their boats up and down and have their homes built on over there now, with their boats tied on the dock there on a lake that used to be belong to our community. And it's really sad how they did our history, and how we are so beholden to whatever they tell us, and we do not go and pull this information out for our own purposes to understand our history. And it's really horrifying, the things that they did to our people. The gynecology, OB-GYN, the speculum that was created now, that's used on women in order to do a pap smear. I don't want to be graphic with you, but I'm just saying it in medical terms. They created one, archaic one, that was done to our women. It was like a prod that's used for horses to get them to do certain things. That's what they used to open up the vaginal area to do a pap smear when they did this first experimentation, in order to get their the type of tools they wanted to use now. If you go through, and I think it's in that book too, I don't know what chapter it's in, where they show you the tools that were used on our people, and especially the women. The hardest, horrifying things they did to our women is just unimaginable. And that's and number one reason why our people won't go to the doctor, especially the men. Women will go some more so, but our men will not go. And also, Chris Rock, I don't know, he was doing an interview with someone, and he discussed his mother, who didn't go to the dentist because they weren't allowed to go to the dentist where she grew up. They had to go to the vet to get her teeth pulled because they weren't allowed to go to the dentist. There wasn't a dentist that looked like us in the community, so where they had to go was to the vet. If you only could imagine that, let that just marinate in your brain for a moment, that going to a vet to have your teeth taken care of, and they pull your teeth out. Didn't look at your teeth, just pulled it out because the teeth had decayed and rotten. So the only thing can be done was pull the tooth out. Health disparities among our community has been the number one thing for Medicare and Medicaid service in trying to correct. And they act like they don't know how to correct it. They know exactly how to correct it, but they will not. And we'll always have a health disparity because of what they've done to us and the distrust we have for them. And just they just won't give us the same health care that we would get in other communities. You would have to actually go into their community to actually pay high dollar to get the type of health care they get. We get the lowest and the lowest point. And then the food that we eat in that area is another factor that goes with all the health disparities that we have. And it's really sad. And all that is part of that book of how we are disenfranchised as opposed to have health, which is why it's such an oxymoron that all of a sudden the government wants to help us. That part that no one's paying attention to. Why all of a sudden the government wants to help us out of nowhere when they never wanted to help us before? It's regarding our health.
I mean, if they were truly concerned,
yes,
we as a people, number one, we shouldn't ever have to pay for any type of medical, ever, because of what we were subjected to as a people. We as a people, we, just like the Native Americans, certain benefits that they have because of the atrocities that they had to deal with, like they don't have to worry about education. They don't have to worry about those type of things. But we as a community, what do we have? And this is where we have to really understand, family, when you start really studying, I was trying to look up a presentation I did about the Constitution, but I'm going to share this this document I did. I can't find a presentation. Matter of fact, I'm just going to read it real quick, just so you guys can understand even what our ancestors had to go through. And when you understand the Constitution makes it clear where we stood. Mm-hmm. Because even when we fought to get this country free from the Brits, we were still slaves. Yep. The Constitution that our ancestors fought and died for, they still fell up under Article number 5 as property.
Yep.
And if you read and I'll read it real quick. This is the Fifth Amendment, right? It says this: no person shall be held to answer for capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment, or indictment or of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land of naval forces, or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. But here's the kicker: nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So these are the laws we fell up under when it came to the Constitution. This is why we couldn't buy property, because property can't buy property. This is why the laws are written a certain way, because we can't rehabilitate ourselves. This is why we get more time. We have to go to them, and then they tell us we have to go to the system to be rehabilitated based upon when you understand naturals and positive law. But a Caucasian could go in for the same crime, and guess what? They don't get the same penalties. Why? Because they can rehabilitate themselves. But nevertheless, I just want to share just a little bit of the Constitution. And this is why we see a lot of the problems that we have, even with the medical, because the Constitution, and also when we understand the institution of race.
Yep.
All these systems were built off of the institution of race. And we are at the low end of the totem pole. So in the medical field, we're going to be at the low end of the totem pole. The educational system, low end of the totem pole. Every governmental agency, every governmental system around the world that's based off the institutional race, you'll always see us at the bottom of it. But Jay, did you want to say something?
Yeah, and Pastor, you're talking on a very valid point, because I was actually going to bring this up on how all of the atrocities that we've experienced in the past, we would consider unethical right now. But back then, they weren't unethical because of our status in society. We were even listed as being 3/5 human. So you can imagine, how when it came to research, what's next in line besides animals? Us. because they didn't really consider us to be human. So that they felt that they had every right to do what they do, such as the Tuskegee experiment. And it's very sad, you know. And I believe that even adds to our demise as far as us willing to trust the healthcare professional because of all we've been through, and because of our status back then and how they actually treated us. And you know, you could say that we even see that today. I know in particular, you know, if I really want to be safe about my health care, I'm not going to go to my counterpart. I'm not going to go to a Caucasian doctor. I'm going to go to, if anything, a black doctor, because I feel that they can relate more to my ailments than any other race. And you know, we tend to trust our own more than anything. So you know, we can sit back and say it's all about us and it's our fault not going to the doctor and what have you. But who brought about that stigma? Who brought about that fear in us not willing to trust the healthcare situation? You know, so yeah, very valid point.
And what you see on your screen, family, this is a document that I
Oh,
did
am
a
I
while
breaking
ago.
up?
Sister Carol probably remember this right here. But what I did was I just was, going through, this is during the election a year ago. I put some information together to really help us understand what we're voting for when you say you're voting, you know, uh, but understanding what the Constitution is, understanding what natural law is, what positive law is. And so natural law, as you see here, the first 10 amendments, that's natural law. And under those natural laws, we were property, right? And what that means is it begins with the premise that all of our rights come from the Most High or nature and are inherent to our being. So you see here the first 10 amendments, the fourth amendments, and then you also see some of my notes here where we would consider property less than human, and beasts were property. But then you also have positive law, and this is where we fall up under. It believes that our rights are granted by the government, society, or other men, and therefore can be taken back by them as well. So I just want to share that with you. But Sister Carol, go ahead and continue to go geek mode with some of the things that you're going to share about some of the incidents that our ancestors were subjected to, some of the atrocities when we start looking at the medical profession.
Oh my goodness. It's so much. Women were done the most. They experimented on our reproductive system so much. I don't know what the fascination of that was, but they did this. I can't remember the doctor name who became famous behind the atrocities they did to our women in OB-GYN. Um, the prod that was used, again, it was used on animals. They used on our women to see how to open up the vaginal area, look at the uterus, and look at the cervix, and to examine it. And then also, of course, if they ever the body becomes deceased, and they can also cut the body up and examine it even more so. You will find more formaldehyde body parts of our people if you ever go into a medical museum than you will see of anyone. And it's because of that reason that they use us as the, if you quote unquote, guinea pigs for research back in those days. Even after slavery, they still were doing atrocity things to our people through public health. Um, they were, of course, we know about Planned Parenthood, where that came from, and what the purpose of that was about. Um, we have lived through so many things, and even if you go back to the buck busting days, and what they did, the sinister things they did back then to our people and men, setting up breeding farms in the Virginia area to they couldn't get slaves to come from Africa back over here. They had to start creating their own slaves. So they created these breeds of farms. So you know they had diseases that was happening on these farms from all these escapades they were doing and creating that. So They did a lot of experimentation with that and trying to ward off disease and keep it from being spread among the camp and around the areas of that camp that was happening in. And it's just really sad. The more and more I think about what they did, and even now, it's gotten a little bit better. But I do remember when I first started working in hospitals and I started reviewing records. If you ever got a copy of your medical record, now you can get a copy because now they have a portal where you could have access to your progress notes. You see your doctor and you can read your reports. But back in the day, you had to request a copy of your records. And if you ever read your history, medical history and physical, I noticed a couple things how doctors will react to who they're talking to. They're talking to a Caucasian patient. They'll always start off with their age and the male or female, and there's always something polite about them. If they're healthy looking white male, 42-year-old white male, healthy looking, nice, well dressed gentleman. Now, on the flip coin of that, it'll be the same 42-year-old male, but it'll be black male. Not, I won't even say African American. It'll say black male in poor condition, unhealthy, terms that let you know that the mind of this physician has been skewed. And it's the same physician, but his mindset is this particular patient is this way and this particular patient is that way. That was very common in how doctors will view patients when they walk in the door. If you remember, she was in the news. As a matter of fact, it was a physician who came down with the virus, and she went live before she passed away. And she was basically screaming out for help, actually, and basically letting everyone know that she was in pain, and she requested pain medication from the attending physician who was taking care of her. And he scolded her and told her she wasn't in pain. Because if you remember, back in slavery, the reason why they can do certain things to the women so much because we had such a high tolerance for pain, which is why we didn't get anesthesia for a lot of the procedures they did to us because of the tolerance of how we could handle pain. We had pain through childbirth. We had pain through the travels from over here, and we withstood all that. So they felt that you didn't need pain medication. You can handle it. So they just ignored her, and more she implored about them. When she told her she was a physician, he basically just scolded her and basically didn't believe that she was a physician. And she had to let everyone know in this video who she was, her credentials, her medical background, and her fellowship and residence she did, her whole CV that she did, and a video just explained to everyone that how she's in a hospital dying, and no one will come to her assistance. That same thing is still happening today that was happening to our people before 1865 and after 1865. And it's saddens me of how we are now coming down on each other behind this particular injection. That's what saddens me the most. It makes me angry to think about all that we've gone through, and now we come to this, and now you're begging and imploring yourself to get this thing without any questions, without any discussion. You just taking it, and you want others to take it too, and it saddens me. You're on mute.
I want to share a clip here, and you guys can touch on it, and then I'll highlight one last a text because I like to give scripture too. But I want to show a clip, and with Biden's words and with the FDA, and then you guys can share your thoughts on it. Then we'll go ahead and wrap up. But great discussion, and we'll continue this because we need to have more discussions like this because I believe that's part of the issue is. You with the social media with for the most part the higher we don't own any major platforms, so with knowing this they could kind of put all kinds of restrictions to suppress what we put out there. And so therefore many are very hesitant about having certain discussions, which works to their favor, because the less we talk about it, the more they can push their agenda, the more they can push the propaganda, you know, and all and so forth. So I want to share this clip here. You guys can share your thoughts, and we'll go from here.
First, we must increase vaccinations among the unvaccinated with new vaccination requirements. Of the nearly 80 million eligible Americans who have not gotten vaccinated, many said they were waiting for approval from the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. Well, last month, the FDA granted that approval.
Today is really an important day as the FDA has approved the first COVID-19 vaccine. And as you heard, the vaccine has been known as the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine and will now be marketed as Comirnaty for the prevention of COVID-19 disease in individuals 16 years of age and older, 16 years of age and older, 16 years of age and older, 16 years of age and older. This is a pivotal moment for our country in the fight against the pandemic. While this and other vaccines have met the FDA's rigorous scientific standards for emergency use authorization, as the first FDA-approved COVID-19 vaccine, the public can be confident that this vaccine meets the FDA's gold standards for safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing quality that we require.
All right, I'm going to stop it right there. And I know you guys are going to pick it apart, which, you know, rightfully so. So I'm going to sit back and let you guys do what you guys do. But did you want to start it off, Brother Jay, or Sister Carol, did you want to start it off?
Well, first of all, in order for anything to be FDA, you have to have data. You have to show efficacy for a drug to state, now we're going to go to the stages of having it approved. You have to show data where it started. You have to show data where it is now and what you perceive for the data to go forward. Normally, a FDA process takes about 5 years to get the protocol in a approval process before it's finally approved. Some drugs are not fully approved to almost 10 to 15, 20 years because they have to have enough data to say this is a safe and effective drug to be used in a human body. So by them pushing this, and it's so obvious why they did this, because everyone was saying, well, it's not FDA approved, not FDA approved, not FDA approved, not FDA approved. So they said, okay, we'll fix that for you. Which one of you companies want to go ahead and get this approved for us right quick so we can go ahead and push that this moment out, so people who hesitant not want to go ahead and get this thing done, they'll get it done now because now we got it FDA approved. But it's not, because you are still crash car dummies in the atmosphere with this thing inside your body. You are the test. So they're still drumming up data on all those out there with the vaccine. So what they're going to do, this is just a temporary, it's like this was emergent vaccine put into the atmosphere. This is an emergent approval. They're still gathering efficacy of this thing to say it's going to be a final approval at X amount of years. Or better yet, what's going to happen is they're going to take it off the market after they got enough people, or got the amount of people they want to have it get inoculated inside their body. Then they'll say, oh, we have these side effects, we have this, that, and the other. But you notice they've not given any informed consent on this vaccination anywhere. You don't see it it's not on TV, it's not in commercials. You know, any type of new drug they want to put into the market, on any commercial, it will give you the contraindications for a drug. They'll tell you the adverse reactions. They tell you all the things will happen if you want to take this new drug with Ken and Karen running through the fields, and all of a sudden she has a headache, and this new headache drug that Pfizer's put out, and they tell you all the contraindication that's going on with this drug, but Karen took the drug now and she's happy now. They have not done this with vaccine. So what they're going to do is that they did this quick approval is to continue collect data as they go along to give a final approval once they see some efficacy, which right now they have no efficacy on this particular vaccine. But it is not approved. It is approved based upon emergent, but it's not approved based upon drug efficacy. And that's my take on that.
You muted.
I'm sorry. Did you want to say anything, Jay?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with Sister Carol. It's way too soon for them to be even introducing this jab to the public, simply because of the trial runs. They have not been significant enough. In order to be significant, of course, you have to have significant results. And that's one thing they don't have. So guess what? They're now using us as guinea pigs. And the whole thing is, again, because of that, another red flag again. I see that there's a much greater agenda. And going back to what you were saying earlier about even the patents for these different viruses and the different vaccines, even with patents comes money. That's the whole reason why you would even patent something, because down the line, if you're going to use that in any manner, you want to make sure you get what's due to you as the discoverer of that particular virus or jab. And so with that being said, I see an extension of Big P. You know what I mean by that? I'm sure it's again all about the revenue, you know, and my mind goes back to what the doctor was saying the other day about there will no longer be a normal society in which we once knew it. This now is our normal, where we're going to be constantly battling with this particular virus and the different variants of that virus. And it's going to go on and on and on. And you're going to start seeing more jabs come out, more booster shots come out. And all of this, again, means revenue, means money for those that are actually responsible for development of these different things. And so, again, Big P rearing its ugly head, and capitalizing off of the people. And it's wicked, it's wrong. Sister Carol, help me out. What do you think? I mean, it's just not good what they're doing. And they think we're gullible and we don't know any better, or we don't have the smarts to read between the lines. And they're dead wrong. We see exactly what they're doing. We may not see the big picture, the big agenda,
Right.
but we do see partly what they're doing, and it's just wicked.
Well, Dr. Fauci said it best. He stated a few months, wasn't that long ago, about a month ago, that he's not concerned with us, with the government, quote unquote, mandating anything. He said they don't have to do it. The company's going to do it on their behalf. So that alone lets you see, I'll tell you right then and there, that they know this is all programming. They don't have to do the work because the crowd is going to do it for them on their behalf to push this sinister thing out to everyone. They'll be the ones who will beat down the people who do not have the inoculation. That your fellow cohort or fellow member in your family who got it will make you want to get it. They don't have to do it. They'll allow upon the public to do it, and they'll just sit back and let it happen. And now that the president has made it clear what's to be done, that's going to be even more so an open window for them to come and make it more and more pertinent to do. But yes, this is all, that FDA thing is nothing but a red flag. You have to have efficacy to have approval, and they have no efficacy of this whatsoever. They're barely scraping the bottom, just trying to get some data. And we already know that this thing only, that that jab only lasts 90 days, 85 days minimum. And you back to where you were, ground zero. And the interesting thing is, when you said we will never be normal again, this is 9/11. Our lives were never the same again as going to the airport after 9/11. Same thing with this. Our lives will never be again. We will never go back to where we were before this virus was entered into the atmosphere in 2019, which I think it was out in 2018 personally, but definitely 2019. And guess what? We've all been exposed to it. Unbeknownstly, we all had a respiratory issue. We got sick. We thought it was a touch of the flu, and we treated it, and we got over it. So we had those antibodies already inside our bodies from whatever was out in the air at that particular time, without being known to what it was, because we had no testing. We didn't get testing to almost close to what, March, April, May, really May. That's when they got the test kits together to actually start testing for the virus. So we already been exposed to it. So what else is there for us to do but to go ahead and live with this? And will be our new influenza, because you don't hear anything about influenza anymore. I asked my doctor friend today, I said, why aren't they testing for influenza A and B to see if it is influenza versus coronavirus? And they're not even doing that type of testing. They're only testing for coronavirus. And now that we're entering into flu season, and they're saying they're going to have a really bad flu. Well, how are you going to have a bad flu when you have any flu last
year? Well, sis, even to your, I'm sorry, sis Carrie, you're breaking up. I thought you were finished.
I am. Go ahead.
What's interesting too, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I did some research in Congress, right? Even though the executive order, right, mandates government employees and contractors to take this vaccine, but Congress don't have to abide by it.
Right.
Executive order doesn't cover Congress.
Correct.
So your congressmen don't have to take it. They're not. They don't fall up under that executive order.
Correct. Interesting.
So that should be another question that is raised as well. That's a double standard, right? The very politicians and those that are pushing it, even the president don't have to take the vaccine, even though he's pushing the executive order.
Yes, and I saw all his executive orders today. CNN posted all his executive orders that he's written the last 100 days up to this particular day, of all he's written, and it's amazing what he's done and put into EOs. And you're right, that is the Congress does not fall underneath federal at all. So they're exempt from it, and no one's talking about that. No one caught that. I find our people, and I said this to you before, we are reactive listener people. Whatever we hear, we react upon. We do not like to read. We will not go dig information out. We will not go flesh it out to find it for ourselves. We will have to have someone else do it for us. And then depending on who it is, if we'll listen to it or not, and then we'll react to it. And that's what's happening with this. We just, whatever they tell you in that box, they believe. And if you come against it, something's wrong with you, not them. Because they're the experts and you're not. No matter how many alphabets you have behind your name, no matter how many that's compared to their alphabets they have behind their name, you're not credible enough to say anything to us. Only they can. And that's what the lie, like you're showing right now. All men are liars.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna touch on that in a second. But Brother Jay, did you want to share anything?
Yeah, and it's very funny, because I did actually hear about how Congress is exempt from taking the jab, and I find it very funny because they're using the excuse that because there are three different executive branches of government, one cannot dictate to the other what they should or should not do. And so if it's that case for Congress, what about us? We have rights too as well. And they shouldn't be forcing anything down our throats or in our arms. because we have rights too, and they should abide by the Constitution as well when it comes to us. So, it's like a double standard here. We have to take it, but they don't, and it's just sickening to me. It really is.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that was one of the things that really caught me by surprise when I did some research. When I came across that, I was like, "Wow!" So the Congress don't have to take it, but you forcing everyone else to do so.
Yep.
Don't do as I do. What is they do as I say, not as I do.
As I do, yeah.
And that's what we're seeing right now. But
Mhm.
I want to touch on this text real quick. You guys could give your thoughts, and we'll wrap up here. But this is from what we talked about this morning in our Shabbat service. All men are liars. Let me say that again, family. This is the word. All men are what? Liars. And when we say men in this text, it's not just referring to gender, it's both men and women. All men are what? Liars. And so when we look at the president of the United States, and we had to put it in its proper perspective. We can go right through his entire brief that he gave. It was nothing but lies. So Psalms, the 116th book of Psalms, verse 9 through 11, this is what it says. It says, I walk before Yahweh in the land of the living. I believe, therefore have I spoken. I was greatly afflicted. I said in my haste, all men are what? Liars. Right? All men are liars, man. I mean, when we look at the height of the things that we're dealing with right now, we're seeing that all these politicians, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's President Biden, all of them are liars, and this is why we can't put our trust in them, because they will deceive us no matter what. We are the community that we continue to invest so much in people, and they deceive us every time.
Yes.
It doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican. Every last one of them has deceived us and continue to deceive us. And again, if you look at President Biden's track record, look at what he lied about the civil rights movement. Look at some of the things he lied about and got caught up in it, but yet our people still supported him. So again, I said in my haste, all men are liars. Right. So when we look at the word walk, right? Walk means to halak means to behave self, come, continually, on continually, depart, enter, exercise self. So when we put this back in its proper perspective, he says, I will walk before Yahweh in the land of the living. So you'll see the word halak right there, or yalak. All right. But then another thing I want to point out is the word liar, right? Makes me think of LL, and I did not fix my animation on here, and I'm gonna have to blame Sister Carol for this. I got to blame you for something, Sister Carol. You've been long overdue for me to
It's your
blame
turn,
you
Sister
for
Carol.
something that Jay should have warned me about and reminded me about.
It should have been Jay.
So I'm going to have
No,
to
it's
put
your
the
turn.
blame on you, because you should have warned. You should have reminded Jay to remind me to make sure that my slides is correct. So I got to put the blame on you, Sister Carol. That Jay didn't remind you to remind me.
I'm going to pass it to the Elephant Man Podcast Network. Give it to him.
So the Hebrew word, and I fixed it real quick, but the Hebrew word is kazab, right? Which means to lie. An example, deceive. You see liar, lie, lying, be in vain, be found a liar. So we see this over and over again, but yet we still continue to subject ourselves to getting our hopes all up for these politicians that don't care about our community. They really don't. Because if they did, certain things they'll take in consideration, especially the medical things that are going on, things that we had to endure over the years. Right. So Psalms 119, verse 12 through 14 says this. Excuse me. It says, what shall I render to Yahweh for all his benefits towards me? I will take the cup of salvation, right? Take the cup of salvation. And in my household growing up, it would have been the mayonnaise jar. That's right. You see me with my, my little reminder right here with my jar right here. Every now and then I got to pull out the mason jar to remind myself of my humble beginnings. We didn't have the china cabinets and all of that. We had mayonnaise jars. We had jelly jars.
Yeah.
We had peanut butter jars. We used that as our drinking things that we drank out of. We didn't have a special cabinet with plates and all that other stuff. So, but yet, again, it says here, I will take the cup of salvation. And if you understand what salvation means, it's more than just saying that I'm going to confess that the Son of the Most High is my salvation. It's more to it than just that in itself. The word salvation, yasha, it means avenge. It means defend. It means get victory. It means to protect, deliver. These are all the things that come with the word salvation. And these are the things that the Most High said that he is going to do for his people. And the Messiah made it clear that he came to bring salvation first, starting with the house of Israel. All right. So again, it says, I will take the cup of salvation and call upon whose name? It says, I will call upon the name. Sham means reputation. It means fame. It means glory. And it also can also mean the literal name. So we see the fame, the glory of who? The name Yahweh. Yahweh means, and you can look it up, two words inside the your dictionary, your Strong's dictionary. You'll see Yah and you'll see Hawa. They are two words that come together to form the meaning of he exists. So it says, I will take the cup of salvation, right, and call upon the name of Yahweh, name of our Most High, because we know that he exists, right? Regardless of what's going on right now, he exists. I will pay my vows unto Yahweh now in the presence of all his people. In other words, I'm going to hold on to my end of the bargain. I'm going to do it in front of all the people, not in hiding. So, family, this is why we cannot forsake, in other words, disregard the importance of coming together. So, with that being said, I just thought I'd share some scripture here because I like to put scripture in the midst of while we're having these discussions. So, we'll start with you, Doctor. If you want to share anything, Brother Jay, any final words you want to give to the people as we get ready to wrap up, and then we'll go with Sister Carol, and then we'll call it a wrap.
Yes, even in times like this, we still stand in the forefront, and we need to show the world. We need to be a light unto the world on how to walk, and that pretty much relates to the scripture you just gave us, Pastor. We have to show others the way in which we should walk and carry our lives, even when met with adversity. We have to show others exactly what's the way and the will of the Most High. That is our duty as Israel. That's been our duty from day one when he first called us from among our kindred, is to be a light unto the world. And the sooner we can take on that regard and that respect, the sooner we'll see the Most High show out and show up on our behalf. So we have to continue to humble ourselves. We need to continue to seek his face. And then and only then will he heal our land.
Amen. Hallelujah. And what I want to say that we're coming upon the feast days. And the Most High created these feast days for a reason and a purpose. He created them for us to be with him, for us to commune with him, for us to talk with him, for us to unto him, because we are of him. And I implore of us, if you have not ever partake in the feast days before, and who are in the chat is listening to this, this will be a good time to start doing it this particular time coming around. As we move further and further into this darkness that we're in, involved with this virus situation and we're under, We need him more than ever. And these feast days are our time to flee unto Yah and help and have him to help us through this process. When the Day of Atonement is time to purge yourself from all that's been going on inside of you, the fears, the anxiousness, whatever you've been dealing with, just laid upon him and have him to purge that out your system, to put you back into a state of peace. Because I think we have lost our peace and we got to get back to our shalom. We got to get back there. We got to get peace back into our spirit and let us understand that we do not have this fear, that whatever is out here in this atmosphere is being weaponized against us, that he's going to come against that and destroy it. And when it's time to come to the tabernacle, it's time. That's your time that you're supposed to be with him and to celebrate him and rejoice in him and love on him and let him love on you. And I just really want us to really understand what these feasts are for and not to take them for granted and to really, really involve yourself into them and allow the Most High to reverence upon you and give him his reverence back.
I'm on. And guys, for clarity, if you go to Leviticus chapter 23, you read the first 5 verses, the Most High makes it clear that these feast days are not Moses. You know, they're not Abraham. They're not Isaac. They're not Jacob. They are his.
Mm-hmm.
As Sister Carol just pointed out, they belong to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he expects us to honor them. They are all holy Shabbats. All the Shabbat is holy anyway, but they are set aside Shabbats that the Most High expect us to honor. And so I'm going to do a teaching on blowing of the trumpets to show you what it means. I did a teaching last week dealing with the trumpet itself. We did it internally for Bible study, but then I'm going to show you a teaching on the shofar, or the ancient pronunciation shapar, which also you see transliterates to the word trumpet as well. And we're going to do a teaching on that so that way you understand what it really means, what a war cry truly means. Mm-hmm. And what you're listening, just real quick, what Biden put out there is a war cry.
It is.
Family, we at war. This is a spiritual war that's happening before us. And the problem is we've been given a butter knife to go on the battlefield with it. You know, we don't even realize we're going out there with a butter knife, while the enemy had the best artillery. But the reason why we don't understand what we have is because we allowed them to give us the weapon. But the Most High is our greatest weapon that we can ever have. With the Most High on our side, right? Who can stand against us?
Right.
So we have to understand this. That's why we have to start getting back in, just start from the beginning, get back in alignment with the things he called us to do.
Yes.
So I want to hand out a couple of 3 pieces, because, you know, we haven't done a 3-piece in a while. You know, you guys could tell me some 3 pieces I could put out there, and we're going to wrap it up. But I want to put a couple of 3 pieces out there to Joe Biden with some of the stuff that he put out there. So let's put a 3-piece out there for his comment that he made about the unvaccinated pandemic. Let me put a 3-piece out there. What do you think, Brother Jay? What's some other things we need to put a 3-piece or toss it out with?
The jab itself. It's a big
You say toss it out, right?
Toss it out. We don't need it.
No.
What else, Sister Carol?
Oh, in 3-piece, FDA and Dr. Fauci together. Just throw them out together.
Oh, we're gonna have to give that a 5-piece. So let's give it a 5-piece.
What?
Had to throw a little, you know.
Yeah, that's my guy right there.
A little cherry on the top, right, Brother Jay?
That's my guy.
So, family, that there is right there, right? Well, family, be encouraged again as we conclude every session that we do with Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14. The Most High had to give Israel through his messenger Moses a word of encouragement as they came out of Egypt. but yet they were facing another obstacle. And so that obstacle seemed to be a dead end. And if you really study the text, the Most High purposely led them in that path to give the appearance that they were vulnerable, so that way he can basically sabotage, catch the Egyptians into a trap. But just in a nutshell, he said in those two verses, told Moses to say to the people, "Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Most High." Right? He said, these Egyptians that you see here today, you will never have to deal with them ever again. The Most High will fight for you, but you have to hold your peace. Can't go back, can't stay here, keep moving forward.